The great crystal towers of Nexus Prime reached toward the purple sky like fingers of light. Inside the biggest tower, the Galactic Harmony Council was meeting again. Representatives from 47 different alien species filled the massive hall. Their bodies glowed with different colors, and they made musical sounds to talk to each other. Ambassador looked around the hall with his 4 eyes. He was from the species, and his gray skin had blue spots that showed he was thinking hard. Something felt wrong today, but he could not figure out what it was. The ethereal High Chancellor Na floated above the center of the room. Her body was like smoke made of light, and when she spoke, her voice sounded like wind chimes. "The council meeting will begin," she said. "All species, please report your status." One by one, the aliens gave their reports. The Silicon Collective talked about their mining operations. The Sang about their trade routes. The Crystalline Hegemony hummed about their military patrols. Each species had something important to say. But notice that the human section was empty. The small area in the back where humans usually sat had no one in it. This was strange, but not too strange. Humans often sent very few people to these meetings. Sometimes they sent nobody at all. Humans were the species in the council. They had only joined about 100 years ago. Most other species had been in the council for thousands of years. Humans were young, and many aliens thought they were not very smart compared to the older species. When humans did come to meetings, they usually sat quietly and took notes. They asked simple questions that made the other aliens think they did not understand important things. Most council members did not pay much attention to what humans said. Raised one of his arms. "High Chancellor," he said, "where are the humans today?" Na's light body flickered as she checked her computer systems. The answer came back quickly, but it was not what anyone expected. "The human diplomatic papers have been cancelled," she announced. "All human trade ships have left council space. Their embassy stations are empty. Their mining colonies have been abandoned." A wave of confused sounds went through the hall. Different species made their own noises of surprise. The bird-like chirped loudly. The plant-based rustled their leaves. The rock-like granite people made deep rumbling sounds. "When did this happen?" asked Admiral from the Crystalline Hegemony. His crystal body sparkled with concern. "The computer says it happened over the past month," Na replied. "But there is something very strange. The humans left no message, no explanation, no list of complaints, they just left." Counselor Oz from the Silicon Collective processed this information with his computer brain. "This is highly unusual," he said in his mechanical voice. "When species leave the council, they always make speeches. They always explain why they are angry. They always demand things." "Maybe they finally understood they were too primitive for the council," said War Prime from the warrior clans. His 6 arms crossed over his armored chest. "Humans were always strange. They could not even glow or make proper music like civilized species." Other council members agreed with musical sounds and light displays. Humans had always been different. They had no natural weapons, no special powers, no beautiful songs or glowing bodies. They were just pink creatures with 5 fingers and too much hair. Their technology was basic, added the ethereal science mind Ra. They still used metal ships instead of growing them from living crystal. They still needed to eat dead plants and animals instead of feeding on pure energy. "And their diplomacy was terrible," said Ambassador from the Trade Federation. "They never understood the importance of proper greeting songs or ritual dances. They just shook hands and said hello." But was still thinking about the strange way humans had left. In all his years in the council, he had never seen anything like it. When the rebel colonies had left the council 50 years ago, they had made war speeches for days. When the independent worlds had quit, they had sent angry messages for months. Humans had just quietly packed up and left. It was like they had been planning this for years, but somehow nobody had noticed. "Did our spy networks detect any signs of this plan?" asked. Na checked with the intelligence services. No, she said after a moment. No intercepted communications. No unusual ship movements. No secret meetings. If this was planned, they hit it perfectly. How is that possible? Demanded. Humans are not smart enough to fool our intelligence networks. Maybe they are smarter than we thought, said quietly. The other council members made dismissive sounds. The idea that humans could be smarter than the great alien civilizations was ridiculous. Humans had learned everything from the council. They used council technology, followed council laws and council culture. Humans were students, said Science Mind Ra. They needed our guidance to survive in space. Without the council, they will probably destroy themselves within a few years. Good riddance, said War Prime. They were always asking strange questions and making weird suggestions. They disturbed the harmony of the council. I agree, said Na. Perhaps it is better this way. The council has worked well for thousands of years before humans arrived. We will continue to work well now that they are gone. The council members voted to officially remove humans from all records and continue with normal business. The meeting moved on to other topics. Plans for new trade routes, discussions about mining rights, debates about military spending. But could not stop thinking about the empty human section. Something about this whole situation felt wrong. Humans might have been quiet and simple, but they had never seemed unhappy. They had always seemed interested in everything the council did. And now they were gone, all of them. Every human in the galaxy had left at the same time, in perfect coordination, without anyone noticing. As the meeting continued around him, wondered if the council had made a mistake. Maybe humans were not as simple as everyone thought. Maybe their quiet questions and strange suggestions meant something important. But it was too late now. The humans were gone, and the council would have to continue without them. What could go wrong? 2 months had passed since the humans left. The Galactic Council continued its work as if nothing had changed. Most species had already forgotten about the strange human departure. Life in the galaxy went on as normal. Or so everyone thought. Counselor Os walked into the council chambers carrying a data pad that glowed red with warning signals. His metal body moved with quick, worried steps. As a member of the Silicon Collective, he was responsible for maintaining the galaxy's communication systems. High Chancellor, he said to the floating Na, we have a serious problem. The other council members gathered around. Os activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy-wide communication network. Red warning signs blinked across the entire map. The quantum communication system is failing, Os announced. Signal strength is dropping every day. We are losing 12% of our communication power each week. Ambassador studied the display. The quantum network was the most important technology in the galaxy. It allowed instant communication between star systems that were thousands of light years apart. Without it, the council could not function. What is causing the failure? Asked Science Mind Ra. That is the problem, Os replied. Our maintenance systems are not working. The automatic repair programs have stopped functioning properly. But that is impossible, said Admiral. The quantum network was built by the precursors. Their technology never fails. The precursors were an ancient alien race that had disappeared millions of years ago. They had left behind incredible technology that was far more advanced than anything the current species could build. The Council had been using precursor technology for thousands of years without any problems. I thought the same thing, Os said. So I had my best technicians examine the maintenance programs. What they found was very strange. He changed the holographic display to show computer code. Long lines of programming instructions scrolled through the air. To most council members, it looked like meaningless symbols, but Os pointed to specific sections. Look at these repair algorithms, he said. They are not precursor technology. They are too simple, too direct. Precursor code is elegant and beautiful like poetry. This code is practical. What does that mean? Asked War Prime. It means someone has been updating the precursor systems, Os explained. For decades, someone has been adding new repair programs and improvement protocols to the ancient code. Who would do such a thing? Demanded Na. No species in the Council has the skill to modify precursor technology. Os highlighted more sections of code. Each section had a small signature mark that identified who had written it. According to these signatures, the modifications were made by human technicians. Silence fell over the council chambers. The idea seemed impossible. Humans were the most primitive species in the council. They could barely understand basic technology, let alone improve on precursor systems. This must be a mistake, said Science Mind Ra. Humans do not have the intelligence to modify precursor code. I thought so too, Os said, but I checked the records. For the past 60 years, humans have been submitting what they called minor efficiency updates to the communication network. We approved them because they seemed harmless. Small improvements to error correction, minor optimization of signal routing. He paused and let the implications sink in. The humans were not just using our communication network. They were maintaining it. And now that they are gone, it is falling apart. Before anyone could respond to this shocking news, another urgent message arrived. Ambassador from the Trade Federation requested an emergency session. We have economic problems, announced when the council gathered again. Trade routes across the galaxy are experiencing massive delays. Ships are taking twice as long to reach their destinations. Some cargo convoys have been lost completely. The Trade Federation was responsible for all commercial activity in Council space. Their cargo ships carried food, materials, and manufactured goods between star systems. If trade stopped working, planets would starve and economies would collapse. What is causing these delays? Asked. Activated his own holographic display. It showed the major trade routes that connected Council worlds. Red warning symbols marked dozens of problem areas. At first we thought it was just bad luck, explained. A few ship failures, some navigation errors, but the pattern is too consistent. Ships are failing in the same places, making the same mistakes. A young analyst named raised her hand. Her species was known for their mathematical abilities and attention to detail. I studied the trade route data, she sang in her musical voice. I found something interesting. All the failing routes have something in common. She manipulated the display to show a different view. Now the map showed small stations scattered along the trade routes. Each station was marked with a human symbol. Every major trade route depends on human-built stations, explained. They are not big or impressive stations, just small refueling depots, maintenance platforms, and communication relays. The council members looked at the map with growing concern. There were hundreds of human stations throughout council space. They had been built quietly over the decades, without much fanfare or attention. Humans said the stations were for their own ships, remembered. We allowed them because the stations seemed harmless. They even let other species use them for free. But now the stations are empty, continued. When humans left, they shut down all their facilities. Ships that used to stop at human stations for fuel and repairs must now take much longer routes to reach alternative stations. Admiral was studying the military implications. How much longer are these alternate routes? Some routes are now twice as long, admitted. Ships must carry extra fuel, which means less cargo space. They must travel through less safe areas of space. And without the human communication relays, ships cannot get real-time navigation updates. This is ridiculous, War Prime declared. Humans were supposed to learn from us, not make us dependent on them. How did this happen? Science Mind Ra was processing the information with her advanced brain. The humans were subtle, she said slowly. They did not ask for permission to become important. They just quietly made themselves useful. Year by year, their small contributions became essential to our systems. Counselor Oss nodded agreement. The same thing happened with the communication network. They did not announce that they were improving precursor technology. They just submitted small updates that made things work better. And we approved these updates without really thinking about them, Na admitted. Because they came from humans, we assumed they were not important. Looked around at his fellow council members. For the first time since humans left, he saw real worry on their faces. The galaxy was starting to have problems, and those problems seemed to be connected to humanity's departure. How bad will this get? He asked. No one had an answer, but everyone was starting to realize that losing the humans might have been a bigger mistake than anyone had imagined. 6 months after the humans left, the first real disaster struck. It happened in the Helios Nebula, a dangerous cloud of gas and dust where only the most experienced ship captains dared to travel. The nebula was dangerous, but it was also the shortest route between the industrial worlds of the consortium and their biggest markets. There were a species of intelligent insects who valued efficiency above all else. They had calculated that sending 3 massive cargo convoys through the Helios Nebula at the same time would save them millions of credits. It was supposed to be a routine operation. Instead, it became a catastrophe. The emergency call reached the council chambers at dawn. High Chancellor Na received the report with growing horror. All 3 convoys had suffered complete navigation failure while inside the nebula. The ships had become lost in the swirling gas clouds, their instruments giving false readings and contradictory information. 2 convoys had managed to emergency jump out of the nebula, but not before crashing into each other. The damage was massive. 47 crew members were dead, and cargo worth 200 billion credits was destroyed or lost in space. The 3rd convoy was still missing. Admiral led the rescue mission personally. His crystalline battle cruiser, the Harmony's Edge, was one of the few ships advanced enough to navigate the nebula safely. When he found the missing convoy, the sight was heartbreaking. 12 massive cargo ships drifted helplessly in the purple gas clouds. Their crews were alive but terrified. Their navigation computers had completely failed, giving readings that made no sense. Without working instruments, the ships could not find their way out of the nebula. How is this possible? Admiral asked his navigation officer. These are the most advanced ships in the consortium fleet. They have the latest navigation systems. Lieutenant Commander, a young officer from the species, studied the failed navigation data with her sharp bird-like eyes. Sir, I think I know what happened. Look at these navigation algorithms. She showed the Admiral a complex display of mathematical formulas and programming code. To his crystal-enhanced vision, the code looked perfectly normal. The navigation system is using standard council protocols, explained. But something is wrong with the base data. The mathematical models for nebula navigation are incomplete. What do you mean incomplete? Demanded. The equations are missing variables, said. Critical calculations for gas density, magnetic field fluctuations, and particle stream behavior. Without these variables, the navigation computer cannot create accurate course plots. Felt a cold certainty growing in his crystal heart. Where did these missing variables come from originally? Checked the data sources. Her feathers ruffled with concern as she found the answer. According to the records, most of the nebula navigation data came from human trading expeditions. For the past 80 years, human cargo ships have been filing detailed reports about their journeys through dangerous space areas. Human reports? Could not believe it. But humans have the most primitive ships in the Council. How could they navigate nebulas that our advanced vessels cannot handle? That is what I do not understand, admitted. But the data is clear. Human ships made thousands of trips through nebulas, asteroid fields, and other dangerous areas. They filed detailed reports about every journey, including mathematical models for safe navigation. Contacted the Council immediately. Within hours, a team of experts was analyzing the navigation database. What they found shocked everyone. Humans had not just been filing reports about their travels. They had been conducting systematic experiments in space navigation. While other species followed established routes and proven methods, humans had been testing new approaches and pushing the limits of what was considered safe. Every time a human ship entered a dangerous area, they recorded detailed measurements of conditions. They tested different navigation techniques. They developed new mathematical models for predicting hazards, and they shared all this information freely with the Council database. Other species had assumed this data came from their own scientists or from ancient precursor knowledge. No one had paid attention to the fact that most of the experimental navigation data had human signatures. "This is impossible," Science Mind Ra declared when she reviewed the findings. "Humans do not have the scientific knowledge to develop advanced navigation mathematics." But the evidence was undeniable. Human ships had been acting as experimental laboratories, gathering data that improved navigation for all Council species. Their willingness to take risks and try new things had made space travel safer for everyone. Without human navigation data, previously safe routes had become death traps. The disaster in the Helios Nebula was just the beginning. Within weeks, similar navigation failures occurred throughout Council space. Ships became lost in asteroid fields that had been safe for decades. Trade routes that had worked perfectly for generations suddenly became too dangerous to use. But the navigation crisis was only part of the problem. Admirals soon discovered that the military was facing an even more serious issue. The Harmony Defense Force had been experiencing strange system failures since humanity's departure. Battle computers were giving incorrect tactical analysis. Weapons targeting systems were malfunctioning. Combat simulations were producing nonsensical results. Admiral ordered a complete investigation of all military systems. What the investigation revealed was deeply disturbing. For decades, humans had been participating in Council military operations as observers and analysts. They were not warriors themselves, but they had attended every major conflict to study alien fighting techniques and battle strategies. Human military observers had filed thousands of reports analyzing combat scenarios. They had developed mathematical models for predicting enemy behavior. They had created tactical algorithms for countering different types of attacks. Most importantly, they had specialized in preparing for chaotic and unpredictable situations. While other species focused on elegant battle plans and logical strategies, humans had concentrated on adapting to unexpected problems. Human tactical thinking was based on the assumption that everything would go wrong, explained Colonel, the Defense Force's chief tactical analyst. They developed strategies for dealing with equipment failures, communication breakdowns, and irrational enemy behavior. "Why would anyone plan for failure?" asked War Prime. "Because in real combat, things always go wrong," Colonel replied. Human tactical models accounted for chaos and uncertainty. They prepared for scenarios that other species considered impossible or illogical. Without human tactical analysis, the Defense Force's battle computers could only plan for perfect conditions. They could not adapt when enemy forces used unexpected strategies or when equipment failed at critical moments. This weakness was about to be tested. The Void Pirates, a chaotic group of raiders who attacked Council shipping, had been quiet for months. Intelligence suggested they were planning something big. Admiral studied the latest intelligence reports with growing concern. The Void Pirates were moving their forces in patterns that made no logical sense. Their ships were gathering in areas with no strategic value. Their communications were filled with random nonsense. The Defense Force's tactical computers analyzed the pirate movements and concluded there was no threat. Enemy behavior is irrational and strategically meaningless, the computers reported. No coordinated attack is possible under current conditions. But Admiral remembered something from the human tactical reports. Humans had always warned that the most dangerous enemies were those who did not follow logical patterns. They had developed specific strategies for fighting chaotic, unpredictable opponents. Those strategies were now gone, along with the humans who had created them. Admiral had a terrible feeling that the Council was about to learn just how valuable human tactical thinking had been. And the lesson was going to be painful. The attack on Serenity Prime came without warning. The agricultural world was known for its peaceful meadows and gentle inhabitants. For 300 years, no Council world had fallen to enemy attack. The Harmony Defense Force was supposed to protect all member worlds from any threat. But Admiral's worst fears had come true. The Void Pirates struck using tactics that the Defense Force computers dismissed as impossible. They attacked from 17 different directions at once, using small, fast ships that moved in random patterns. When the Defense Force tried to respond with logical battle formations, the pirates simply scattered and regrouped somewhere else. The pirates used weapons that should not have worked together. They combined energy blasters with ancient missile launchers. They mixed high-tech shields with primitive armor plating. Their ships looked like junk, but somehow they fought with devastating effectiveness. Most confusing of all, the pirates seemed to anticipate every move the Defense Force made. When Admiral sent ships to protect the main city, the pirates attacked the farms. When he moved to defend the farms, they struck the spaceport. It was as if they could predict his battle plans. "This makes no sense," Admiral said to his tactical officers. "Their strategy has no logical pattern. They should not be able to coordinate such a complex attack." "The computers agree with you, sir," reported Colonel. "According to our analysis, their tactics are chaotic and self-defeating. They should have failed hours ago." But the pirates had not failed. They had successfully occupied 3 major cities and captured the planet's main food production facilities. Thousands of Council citizens were now prisoners, and the planet's grain supplies were being loaded onto pirate cargo ships. Admiral stared at the tactical display with growing frustration. The Defense Force had more ships, better weapons, and superior technology. But somehow they were losing to an enemy that did not follow the rules of warfare. Then he remembered something from an old human tactical report. A human analyst named Colonel Sarah Martinez had written about asymmetric warfare and chaos tactics. She had warned that logical military systems could be defeated by enemies who deliberately acted in illogical ways. "The enemy's greatest strength is that they do not try to win in the way we expect," she had written. "They create confusion and uncertainty. They force us to react instead of acting. They turn our own planning against us." Admiral realized with growing horror that the pirates were using exactly the kind of tactics that humans had specialized in countering. Without human tactical analysis, the Defense Force was helpless against chaos-based warfare. The battle for Serenity Prime ended in complete disaster. The pirates successfully escaped with their prisoners and stolen cargo. For the first time in centuries, a Council world had fallen to enemy attack. High Chancellor Na called an emergency session of the full Council. Representatives from all 46 remaining species gathered in the crystal chambers. The mood was dark and fearful. "We cannot continue to ignore what is happening," Na announced. "The communication network is failing. Trade routes are collapsing. Our military has suffered its first defeat in 3 centuries. All of these problems began when the humans left." Warprime slammed his 6 fists on his desk. "This is unacceptable. Humans were the weakest species in the Council. How could their departure cause so many problems? That is exactly what we need to find out, Na replied. I am authorizing a complete investigation into humanity's role in Council civilization. We must understand what we have lost. The investigation was led by the Information Guild, the galaxy's most skilled researchers and analysts. They had access to all Council databases and records going back hundreds of years. Their task was to trace every system, every protocol, and every innovation to find out how much humans had really contributed. What they discovered was devastating. The lead investigator was a brilliant named. Her species could process information at incredible speeds and notice patterns that others missed. After 3 weeks of intensive research, she requested a private meeting with the High Chancellor. The situation is worse than we thought, sang in her musical voice. Human involvement in Council civilization is far deeper than anyone realized. She activated a massive holographic display that filled the entire chamber. The display showed a complex web of connections between human contributions and Council systems. Let me start with infrastructure, began. Humans did not just maintain the quantum communication network. They improved dozens of critical systems throughout Council space. The display showed power grids, atmospheric processors, water purification plants, and transportation networks. All of them had been quietly upgraded with human innovations over the decades. Humans had a talent for making existing systems work better, explained. They would study a power plant or a water treatment facility and find ways to improve efficiency by 5 or 10%. These improvements seemed small, but they added up to massive gains over time. Why did no one notice this? Asked Na. Because humans never took credit for their innovations, replied. They submitted their improvements as minor maintenance suggestions or routine optimization updates. Council bureaucrats approved them without realizing their importance. The display shifted to show medical databases. Thousands of treatment protocols glowed with human identification markers. Human medical research was even more significant, continued. Humans had a unique ability to develop treatments that worked across multiple species. While our doctors specialized in treating their own kind, humans thought in ways that crossed biological boundaries. How is that possible? Asked Science Mind Ra. Human medical thinking was based on understanding fundamental biological processes rather than species-specific anatomy, explained. They looked for universal principles that applied to all forms of life. The medical discoveries were staggering. Humans had developed new surgical techniques, created innovative drug therapies, and solved medical problems that had puzzled alien doctors for generations. Most of this research had been shared freely with the Council medical database. Next is crisis management, said. The display now showed natural disasters, industrial accidents, and emergency situations from across Council space. Humans participated in disaster response efforts throughout the galaxy. The data showed that humans had a remarkable talent for coordinating complex rescue operations. When volcanoes erupted, when asteroid impacts threatened colonies, when space stations suffered catastrophic failures, humans had been there to help organize the response. Human crisis management was based on flexible thinking, explained. While other species followed established emergency protocols, humans specialized in adapting when those protocols failed. But the most shocking discovery was saved for last. Finally, we have innovation and technological progress, announced. The display showed a timeline of scientific and technological advancement across Council space. For thousands of years, the pace of progress had been slow and steady, but starting about 100 years ago, the rate of innovation had dramatically increased. New technologies appeared more frequently. Scientific breakthroughs came more often. Social and cultural development accelerated across all species. This acceleration began exactly when humans joined the Council, pointed out. Human thinking patterns influenced research and development across the entire galaxy. But humans have primitive technology, protested Admiral. How could they accelerate our progress? Human thinking was not about having advanced technology, replied. It was about approaching problems in ways that other species never considered. Humans were willing to try impossible solutions. They made connections between unrelated fields. They questioned assumptions that everyone else accepted without thinking. The investigation's conclusion was undeniable. Humans had not been primitive students learning from advanced alien teachers. They had been the invisible engine driving galactic civilization forward. The species we dismissed as too young and too simple had actually been the most advanced civilization in the galaxy, concluded. Not in terms of technology or military power, but in the ability to adapt, grow, and thrive in an uncertain universe. High Chancellor Na absorbed this information with growing shame. The Council had been so proud of their ancient civilizations and advanced technologies. They had never realized that their continued success depended on the contributions of the species they had dismissed as primitive newcomers. What happens now? Na asked. Now we face the consequences of our arrogance, replied. Without human adaptability and innovation, Council civilization will stagnate and decline. We have perhaps a year before the cascade failures become irreversible. The ugly truth was clear. The Council needed humanity far more than humanity had ever needed the Council. The question was, would the humans ever consider coming back? 18 months after humanity's departure, the Galactic Council was on the edge of collapse. The quantum communication network worked at only 23% efficiency. Major trade routes had become too dangerous for regular use. 3 more worlds had fallen to void pirate attacks. The Council's economy had shrunk by almost 1/3. Most frightening of all, the rate of technological progress had slowed to levels not seen for thousands of years. Without human innovation driving advancement, the galaxy's civilizations were beginning to stagnate. High Chancellor Na made the hardest decision of her long career. Despite the Council's pride and the protests of many species, she authorized a diplomatic mission to find humanity and beg them to return. We cannot survive without them, she admitted to the emergency council session. Our civilization will collapse within another year if we do not restore human participation. The mission was led by Ambassador, the who had first noticed humanity's absence. He had always believed that humans were more important than other species realized. Now he would try to convince them to save the civilization that had dismissed them. Finding the humans proved surprisingly difficult. Their ships had left no trace of their destination. Human colonies had been evacuated so completely that no clues remained. Even the Council's best intelligence services could not track where humanity had gone. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A trader named had been studying old human shipping records. She noticed that human cargo ships had made regular trips to a remote star system in the galaxy's outer rim. The system was listed as containing only empty planets with no valuable resources. Why would humans visit an empty system so often? Wondered. Expedition ship, the Harmony Seeker, made the long journey to the mysterious star system. What they found there all expectations. The system was not empty. It contained a thriving human civilization that was far more advanced than anything in Council space. Human cities covered 3 planets, their architecture unlike anything the Council had seen. Instead of copying alien designs, humans had developed their own unique building styles that seemed to grow from the landscape itself. Massive space stations orbited the planets, their hulls gleaming with unknown technologies. Most shocking of all, human ships moved through the dangerous nebulas surrounding the system with casual ease. They navigated hazards that would destroy Council vessels without any apparent concern. "How is this possible?" asked Lieutenant, the officer who had joined the expedition. "Human technology was primitive when they left Council space." "Maybe their technology was never as primitive as we thought," replied quietly. The human government agreed to meet with the Council delegation, but the meeting location surprised everyone. Instead of inviting them to a planet, the humans arranged to meet aboard one of their space stations. The station was a marvel of engineering that surpassed anything in Council space. Its corridors were filled with clean air that smelled like growing plants. Its walls displayed beautiful artwork created by dozens of different alien species. Its technology worked so smoothly that it seemed almost magical. "Welcome to Harmony Station," said their human guide, a woman named Captain Lisa. "President Sarah is waiting to meet with you." Notice something important as they walked through the station. There were aliens living and working alongside the humans, not just one or two species, but dozens of different kinds of beings from across the galaxy. "Are these refugees from Council space?" asked. Captain smiled. "No, Ambassador. These are independent species who chose to join our civilization. When we left Council space, we were not the only ones who felt unwelcome there." The meeting with President Sarah took place in a conference room that overlooked the stars. She was a middle-aged human woman with gray hair and intelligent eyes. Her manner was polite but reserved. "Ambassador," she said, "I understand the Council is experiencing some difficulties." President began, "I will be direct. Council civilization is collapsing without human participation. We need you to return." President listened as explained the cascade of failures that had struck the galaxy since humanity's departure. The communication breakdowns, the economic collapse, the military defeats, the technological stagnation. Everything that had gone wrong in just 18 months. "I see," President said when he finished, "and the Council has concluded that these problems are connected to our departure." "Our investigation proved it beyond doubt," replied. "Humans were essential to the functioning of galactic civilization. We were blind to your importance, and now we are paying the price." President stood and walked to the window. Outside, human and alien ships moved in perfect coordination through space that should have been too dangerous to navigate. "Ambassador," she said finally, "let me show you something." She activated a holographic display that showed the development of human civilization since their departure from Council space. The progress was staggering. In just 18 months, humans had advanced their technology by decades. Their society had grown stronger and more prosperous. Their culture had flourished without the need to conform to Council expectations. "How did you achieve so much so quickly?" asked. "We achieved it by working with species who valued our contributions," President replied. "When we left Council space, we were not alone. Dozens of smaller species came with us, species that the Council had ignored or dismissed as unimportant." She changed the display to show their new alliance. Humans had formed partnerships with alien species that the Council barely recognized. Together, they had created a civilization based on mutual respect and shared innovation. "Each species contributes what they do best," President explained. "The tiny builders construct our space stations with incredible precision. The deep thinkers solve mathematical problems that would take us years. The energy dancers power our cities with living light. And humans coordinate it all, bringing different abilities together to create something greater than any of us could achieve alone. This is what we want to offer the Council," she continued. "Not a return to the old relationship where humans were dismissed as primitive students, a new partnership based on genuine equality." Felt a mixture of hope and shame. What would this partnership look like? "First, the Council must acknowledge that it made mistakes," President said firmly. "You spent 3 centuries treating us like children who needed guidance to survive among the stars. You never realized that we were actually helping you survive." She paused and looked directly at each member of the delegation. "Second, any new relationship must be between equals. We will not return to fix your problems for you. But if you are ready to work together as true partners, perhaps we can build something better than either of our civilizations achieved alone." "What about the current crisis?" asked. "Will you help us restore the communication network and repair the trade routes?" "We will provide emergency assistance to prevent the collapse of galactic civilization," President replied. "But this help comes with conditions. The Council must reform its government to give all species equal representation. The old system where ancient species dominated younger ones must end." "Some Council members will resist these changes," warned. "Then they will continue to decline without human assistance," President said simply. "We learned to thrive without the Council. Can the Council learn to thrive without the illusion of superiority over younger species?" The negotiations continued for days. Human leaders met with Council representatives to work out the details of a new galactic government. The discussions were difficult, but gradually a framework emerged. The new government would be based on contribution rather than age. Species would be valued for what they brought to galactic civilization, not how long they had been in space. Humans would take a leadership role in technological development, crisis management, and interspecies cooperation. Most importantly, the new government would actively seek out and welcome species that the old council had ignored. The galaxy was full of civilizations that had been dismissed as too small, too young, or too different to matter. Once expedition returned to council space, they brought with them the first joint human council team in over a year. Human engineers worked alongside council technicians to repair the communication network. Human tactical advisors helped the military develop new strategies for fighting chaotic enemies. Human doctors shared medical advances with alien colleagues. The results were immediate and dramatic. Within weeks, the cascade failures that had threatened galactic civilization began to reverse. Communication was restored, trade routes reopened, and the Void Pirates suffered their first major defeat in months. But the real changes were deeper than just technical fixes. The Council began reaching out to species they had previously ignored. Small civilizations that had been dismissed as unimportant were invited to join the new galactic government. The diversity of ideas and approaches led to an explosion of innovation and progress. 6 months after the negotiations, the first joint Human Council expedition departed to explore the galaxy beyond known space. The ship carried crews from dozens of different species, all working together as genuine partners. Ambassador stood on the bridge of the exploration ship Harmony's Dawn, watching stars he had never seen before. Beside him, President Sarah studied star charts that showed vast, unexplored regions of the galaxy. "I have a question," said. "When you left Council space so quietly, did you plan all of this? Did you know the Council would eventually need to find you?" President smiled. "We hoped the Council would learn from our absence, but we were prepared to build our own civilization if you did not. And if we had never come looking for you, then you would have discovered that the galaxy is big enough for more than one successful civilization," she replied. "Competition can be healthy, as long as it does not prevent cooperation when cooperation is needed." Looked out at the unexplored stars ahead of them. For the first time in his long life, he felt truly excited about the future. The age of human apprenticeship was over. The age of genuine galactic partnership had begun. The humans had taught the Council its most important lesson. True strength came not from dominance over others, but from the wisdom to recognize and value what others could contribute. And in the vast, unexplored galaxy ahead, there would be countless opportunities to put that lesson into practice.